Hi there. Welcome to On the Flip Side, a podcast for anyone who wants to live their best sales life. We're going to be talking to buyers, sales managers, SDRs, and A's about things like what does it take to be a great sales manager? Or how can you go home happy month after month? So let's dive right in. Hey folks, welcome back to On the Flip Side with Winman. I'm Kushal, and today we're diving deep into the world of sales and what you need to get ahead in your sales career with none other than Kevin Katie Dorsey. Now, Katie needs no introduction, so I'm going to keep it super short. Katie is the VP of Sales at Patient Pop and founder of Inside Sales Excellence. But more importantly, he's super generous with sharing his insights and tactics on what you need to excel in sales.
I appreciate y'all bringing me, I guess, on and back. I guess I'm not, too crazy or too out there. So no, I appreciate it.
Great. Katie, what's the first thing that you ever sold?
Ooh, geez. Okay. First thing I ever sold were raffle tickets for my baseball team, door to door in like my neighborhood, right? To like raise, money for the team, but then also the more tickets you got, the more entrants into the raffle you got to like try to win something. So that was the first thing I sold. And if I think about what I learned from it, I'm not sure, to be honest. If I think back to it, I think even then, numbers, right? I was like, okay, I've got 100 of them. If I knock on 100 doors, there's no way I'm going to sell 100. I'm going to need to knock on 1,000 doors. Where there are 1,000 doors, and then probably even territory management a little bit, right? Like, is my neighborhood the best place to do this, or is there a different neighborhood that maybe is more likely to sign up for? So I think even back then, I was pretty strategic in planning with like how I was going to sell something. So I think that's probably one of my bigger takeaways from that.
How old were
you? God, I must have been 10. Those little these days. I was a little young little whippersnapper knocking on doors.
Nice. Okay, so fast forward to a couple of years at least later. You've obviously built this great personal brand. We can see some of it on LinkedIn, on your Patreon, in so many other sales communities. What can really other salespeople do to build this up for themselves? Why do you think it's the right investment, and how do you think they should get started? Especially for a lot of younger folks who maybe feel they aren't really.
So I think a very common, miss when people are trying to build a brand is before you build a brand, right? So I didn't build a brand. I built skills and then started to share them. And that's what built the brand, right? If what I was sharing wasn't valuable, if what I was sharing wasn't true, if what I was sharing, didn't help people get better, I wouldn't have a brand. And so I think a lot of people are trying to build brands when they haven't built the skills behind it yet. So that's the first part, but also who you're talking to. So to your point, some of the earlier people, I was just speaking about this with a woman the other day. She's like, I just don't know what to post. And I was like, write to yourself. What advice would you be giving yourself 2 years ago? Because those people exist. So it's not always about writing to your peers yet either. It's writing to the people that want to be in your space. So if I were an SDR right now trying to build a brand, I'd put some SDR tips out there, but more so I'd be talking about how to become an SDR and why it's worth it, right? I'm targeting the seniors in college, right? The people coming out. And then once I become an AE, I'd be talking about the SDRs. And once I become a manager, I'll talk about the AEs. And once I talk about the director, I'm talking to managers, VPs to directors, CRO to VPs, right? So it's talking to the people that are trying to go your path versus always trying to talk to the people that are already in your shoes. So I think that's where people miss with branding often too, is SDRs trying to give advice to SDRs doesn't necessarily work that way because they see you as, versus if you're speaking to someone trying to get into tech sales, that's a different type of ballgame because you've accomplished something that they're trying to accomplish. So it is beyond worth it. Like I talked about this at a conference not that long ago, like brand building as a skill. Once you know how to build a brand, no matter what industry you go into, you can build a brand there. And I cannot even express how valuable that is. I will never have to, I won't, because people know who I am and they understand how I do things. If I were to be dropped into a new industry, I know how I would build a brand in that industry. That's a skill set they could never leave, right? So I think it's something that they should focus on, but focus on skills first, then building the brand around those skills.
To go deeper into your point around kind of building skills, right? What do you think are maybe some of the best ways to invest in your own growth and development? I know a lot of people, me included, we really like to talk about investing in yourself. What do you think that would mean for
I mean, the easiest is just start reading. Just start reading. Like, reading books is so underrated still. And you're like, oh, I don't learn from books. Get over it. Like, there's so much knowledge in these books, right? Like, I've talked about this with people and mentees. It's like, why take 20 years to get good at something if you can learn from someone who did it for 20 years, right? The books behind me in this office, right? Someone dedicated their life and their skills and their failures to taking what they knew and put it in a book. And I can, right? And so it doesn't mean you're only reading sales books. Read psychology, read sociology, read habit building, behavior modification, right? Like, you'll become a better salesperson, right? So that's the first. It's like, just start reading. Get into that habit of reading 10 pages a day. You will be a different person in 3 years. Absolutely different person because of the inputs that you're giving yourself. The second part of that then is like the actual practice and execution. So specific to sales, I think most salespeople don't practice enough. Like, they're practicing on prospects. They're not practicing on purpose. And that's the problem. They haven't said the script out loud 100 times, and then they get me. You're practicing with me on a real call. Like, that's when you're trying to do it for the first time. And so practicing is also very underrated. Sales as an industry is very interesting what we allow to happen, right? Like, to become a nurse, you don't practice on the job. You go to school for 6 years, right? Hopefully not. Right? You go to school for 6 years and then residency to prove you know how to do it, and then you have a job. Oh, yeah, go do it. Make it your own. We don't want to micromanage you. Like, good luck. Like, God, it's just the worst, right? So, like, way more practice needs to be happening.
Got it. So you've obviously made it through the years to where you are today, right? What do you think are some of the levers that senior salespeople should be pulling to get to the leadership stage as well? So when you look at people around you, what's the advice that you want to give them?
So, I'm going to take one step back and say, start learning about what you want to do next now, right? So for like reps on my team, they're reading management books 6 to 8 months before they ever get the promotion, right? If you're an SDR that wants to become an AE, start listening to AE demos now. Start shadowing AEs now, 4 to 6 months before it happens, right? Manager to director, same thing. So that's the first. Start learning about the role you want to get into before you get into it, because then you should start trying to do some of those things before you step into the role, right? If you want to start doing some of the things a manager would do while you're a rep, right? Can you lead some one-on-ones? Can you lead some trainings? Can you solve some problems? Can you do a project for your manager, right? Like, start doing some of it while you're still in your role. Like, people really seem to forget that promotions are earned, not given. You earn a promotion, and you earn a promotion by it being obvious that you can. Because what people always seem to forget, you still have zero experience. You are a top performing rep. Great. You have 0 years. Would your company hire someone from the outside? No, they wouldn't. So why should they hire someone internally with zero experience? Just because you know the product or the prospect isn't enough. So you need to start developing the skills beforehand. And the higher up you go is when you start to reach out to more and more people from your company, right? If you're a manager and you want to become a director, well, there may only be one director at your company to learn from. So you need to reach out to other directors across the industry to learn from. You're a director and want to become a VP. There may not even be a VP at your company to learn from. So now you got to reach out to VPs across the country in the industry to learn from. So seeking out the knowledge from people that are accomplishing what you want to accomplish a couple years ahead of you. That's the ticket to moving up.
Katie, just to talk a little bit about, I think you teaching at Pavilion, right? What can people kind of learn there? And
for the management course?
yes,
for sure. So
yeah,
it's a lot of the things that aren't taught to managers, right? I don't remember sitting through SaaS Sales Management 242 in college. I didn't take a minor in call coaching or one-on-one 362, right? Like no one teaches most managers how to run a one-on-one. No one teaches them how to coach. No one teaches them how to do metrics and math and dashboards and reporting. Hiring and interviewing, most of them are never taught how to interview, what to look for, how to ask the questions, what types of questions you should be asking, right? What to do in your first 30 to 60, 90 days as a manager to establish trust and rapport. So it's like all the things that managers should be doing that were never taught, right? And I have a very, I believe the frontline manager role is the most important role in the company if you're trying to grow. If you're trying to grow and scale, you have to have incredibly strong managers. You can have some of the best reps in the world, but if you have poor management, they'll either leave or they're not going to be the best reps in the world. So it's that type of things, one-on-ones, hiring, interviewing, metrics, issue diagnosis, reporting, forecasting, like all the things that a manager should be good at that they aren't taught. That's
got it. Katie, just switching tracks a little bit towards more sales tactics now. We all know that selling today is super hyper competitive, right? There are 100, if not more, tools for what you want to sell or your company or your product. What are some of the things that sales teams should be doing more of? Is it using new tools and tactics, or is it really doubling down on some basic?
So I think the number one thing overlooked in selling is the customer. So much of selling right now is still on the product, the differentiators of the product, the different features of the product, and it's not focused on the prospect, right? You can stand out very quickly if you understand, right? But no one thinks about it that way. They think about, oh, we got to have a better product or we have to understand our product better. Do you understand the prospect better than your competitors? Because if you do, you'll win, right? So if I go through my inbox right now and look at all the sales emails of people coming after me, almost all of them sound exactly. Hi, Kevin, not even KD. I saw you're the VP of Inside Sales at Patient Pop Inc. So now I know it's automated. We help VPs of sales all across the country 3x their pipeline with our groundbreaking revolutionary gizmo gadget. Could I get 20 minutes? Unfortunately, that's not that hard to beat. That's what your competition is sending. If you can't beat that, you're not trying, right? So that's the other part of this is if you understand your prospect and you speak to them as a human and you educate them and you make them aware of things and you help them see the problems maybe they didn't know they had, right? And you talk about that is how you're going to make connections. And also too, what people are not understanding is how much longer it takes it takes more touches. So if you're only making 3 touches, you're never going to stand out. But if you're making quality touches over a month, 2 months, 3, that's how you stand out if that messaging is strong. Right? Are you solving problems for the prospect? Or are you pitching a product? Do you even know what their problems are? Because this is the tricky part. The reps for Wingman won't have to deal with this as much, but most sales reps don't use the product they sell. They don't use it, right? They don't actually use it. So how that they can't speak to the prospect at the level they need to because they don't use it, right? So that's why you got to talk to your customers more to understand how do they actually use it. What's the value they actually get from it? What's the problems it actually solved for them? Because while you're over here talking about, oh, we're revamping pipeline generation, all of your customers are saying, yeah, it just saves me 5 hours a week on reporting. Like, it's great. So that's how you stand out, is understand the prospect better. I can't remember where I read it, but it said the company or the people that understand reality if you understand reality the best, the reality of your customers and your prospects, you will win. So
I could obviously be biased when I say that one of the best ways to understand the reality of your customers is to actually listen in to those calls across scale, right? But because that's some of what we do at Wingman, of course. Well, what do you think are really some of the best ways for reps to do this?
So there's a few things, right? So it's listening to calls, but it's listening to the customers, right? When I go into a new industry, because I've done 5 different industries now in my sales career, right? There's zero consistency across them. So I have to learn new markets and new prospects very fast. The first thing that I do is I listen to calls, but I'm listening to the prospect, not the sales rep. I want to hear, what are they saying? What are the questions they're asking? Where do they get stuck? What do they not like, right? So that's the first part, is listening to those calls. But it's not enough, because if you're not asking the right questions on those calls, you're not going to learn. So the flip side of it is I interview customers. So when I go into a new company, I'm talking to 30, 40 customers, and I'm asking them, why did you buy? What problem were you hoping to solve? What were you afraid of before buying? How were you solving this problem prior to this tool, right? What's your favorite part about the tool, and what's changed the most since you've bought it? If I go ask that question of 30 customers, there we go. I've got my value prop. I've got my core unspoken objections. I've got my hooks. I've got my first sentences. I've got my scripting. Like, there it is, right? So you can learn it. But then the last part here, where again, the sales reps sales leadership, that I just don't think they take it seriously enough. Read what your customers should, right? So like, on LinkedIn, if you're a salesperson, people follow people like me or Scott or Justin or Kyle, right? Like, there's plenty of people to follow. Are you following the influencers of your industry? If you're selling to, who do they follow? Follow them. Read their blogs, listen to their podcasts, right? Like, how does your prospect consume information? You should do the same.
I think my next question is sort of related to this, right? Which is really around, what do you think are the most broken things in sales today that make you?
God, I mean, automated, right? Like, that's one where I'm like, if we're that easy, we wouldn't need sales reps. Like, if it was that easy to book meetings, just sending templated emails, I wouldn't need salespeople. I just load it all up into Marketo or HubSpot and blast a million emails out and wait for the dollars to come in, right? So templated, non-personalized emails are crazy to me. Lack of training and onboarding for reps. And I can talk about this because I've been through it. I've done it, right? I've also made some of these mistakes, but like, the amount of things that we expect reps to know and remember is insane. And then most reps get 2 weeks of training, maybe, at their company. They are never practicing. There's no insights into how the prospects actually use the product. Like, we're not training our people well in the sales industry. And then we wonder why so many reps fail, right? So lack of training, lack of like coaching and onboarding is something that just drives me nuts. And then the last one, and I'll go a little bit more of a controversial route here, but more and more, I don't believe they actually change behavior for the majority of people. Again, think about it real quick, right? 52% of reps across the industry are hitting quota. Are commissions working? Like, we'd have to be able to step back as an industry and go, no, 52% of reps getting to quota is not working. And so something's broken, right? And so that's an area of like treating reps like they're these money motivated individuals. Everyone thinks salespeople are money motivated. The vast majority of them are not. They like money, but they're not money motivated. If they were money motivated, I'd never have to talk about activity. I'd never have to worry about them not hitting quota because they would go get it to make the money, right? So like I use this as an example all the time. Is people will say sales reps are coin operated, right? What's funny about that is I think people forget how coin operated machine. If I want to go, do I turn the knob and then put in money? Or do I put in money and coin operated quite literally means you. That's not how we pay our salespeople. We say, give us the gumball and then we'll give you the money. Right. So that to me is also something that as I look at this industry, I think we're in for a reckoning there. It's why we don't get as many good people. It's why we have such high turnover. It adds to the stress and the mental health issues. Like that's one that's more controversial to most people, but I don't. If I could come up with two comp plans, one all base, one 60-40 base and commission and offer it, let you pick the one that's best for you. Let's go to work.
It's super interesting that you talk about, the whole coin machine equal to salesperson and also the impact on mental health. I was talking to Jeff Risley over at Sales Health Alliance recently, and we were talking about peak sales performance and, your mental health and really finding a better purpose in your job that maybe goes beyond money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he said pretty much the same thing, that it's all about finding that bigger purpose in your work, and that if it's money for you, great. There's nothing wrong with money, right? But on the days that you're not so good,
Yeah. I mean, money doesn't motivate most people. It truly doesn't. We need money. We want money, but it doesn't. Like people also, I think, forget. This is also, I think, a big miss for people. Motivation, right? Money does not really change the behavior of most people, especially for a significant period of time. So we already need to tell ourselves like money isn't motivating people to be better at their jobs, right? And that is something that I think is, that as an industry that we need to really think through and really address. Are there some people that are money motivated? Yes. Cool. Here's your comp plan. God bless you. Go get it. Are there people that would way rather have the security, right, of their job? Because we know this, right? Like you do not sell well with commission breath. You don't. When you need to close the deal to pay, that doesn't make better salespeople. In fact, we've already seen this in the B2C world, right? The B2C world has already started to make this transition. It's a competitive advantage to say that you think about that real quick. It's a competitive advantage. They say our salespeople are not paid commission, and that's a competitive advantage because the consumer is like, I'd rather deal with someone who I know doesn't make more money just because I signed up. Because now there's already an imbalance of trust. No matter what, you can't trust me when you know my livelihood. That's a shift that I hope to see over the next 3 to 4 years.
I think that's a super interesting thing to kind of watch out for and see, like you said, how that gets implemented over the next few years. Let me also ask you this, Katie. What is your motivation?
So my motivation in sales continues to be building, and I know I'll never achieve it. I'll never achieve this perfect team, but that is what motivates me. When I think about building a team and a culture of support and accountability and development and getting better and hitting numbers and winning and giving people the livelihoods that they want, right? Like I'm chasing this perfect team. And that's what motivates me because there's always more money out there. There's always bigger titles. That's not like what drives me, right? Like I'm seeking perfection. And I put that in quotes because like it'll never happen, but it's what drives me is like, what can I do differently? What can I tweak, right? Even what we're talking about, there's not a lot of sales leaders that would be willing to sit down. I'm willing to say that because I believe that is the next step. That is the next evolution of like, if I think about a perfect team, part of that is How do my people live and how do they feel? If I could bring the stress levels of my team down, is that a win? Yeah, it is. Could I recruit more talent to my team if there was more security? Yeah, I think they could. Could I actually ask more of them? This is another thing people seem to forget about commissions. Do this and I'll pay you versus which one is more likely to actually get the behavior change? When something is conditional, it's also viewed as optional. I'm going to say that one more time. When something's conditional, it's also viewed as I'll pay you if you meet these conditions. Now makes me believe that the things you're asking me to do are optional, because if you don't pay me for it, then why would I? Versus I'm paying you to do this. So that's what motivates me, is I want to create this perfect team and get them, making more money than they've made before, so they can spend more time with their family, so they can take the trips that they want, so they can save up and buy the house. Like that's
Talking of motivation, Kitty, there's a lot of talk of the great resignation, right? People leaving their jobs behind, looking for better things. What do you think are the things that sales leaders should actually be doing to retain?
So it's remembering what they want, right? So again, we can talk about this all day, but like what do sales reps want? Part of this too that I think we discount too much is like what we all just went through and are still going through, right? We didn't just spend the last year selling remote, right? Which is like all this remote work is here to stay. This wasn't remote work. This was pandemic work. This was on lockdown work. This is not being able to see your friends and family work. This is always having the kids around and not being able to teach them at home work. This is like fear of losing loved ones work. This is losing loved one work. Like that's what we just went through over the past year and a half and are still going through. It's still not done. And I think we don't talk about that enough. So I think a lot of like the great resignation right now, people are searching for something, right? So much of the last year and a half was just holding on. Right? It's like holding on for dear life, right? I had a job. Okay, I want to hold on to it. But now it's like, okay, I need to breathe a little bit. I need to find something different for me. But what's going to happen, right? So there's this great resignation. It's true. Even we're experiencing, right? We've had way higher turnover over the last 6 to 8 months than I've ever experienced. But people aren't actually finding things better always. They're just finding something different. And so I think like if we think about what reps want, you ask them what they want. Reps want more money, but they don't always want more money. They want more security. So interesting. Just talked about how to give them more security. They want more development. Well, we've talked about that too. Most teams do not actually train and coach and teach their reps. So that's there. They want growth opportunities. Cool. What paths to promotions, new skills, new developments are you setting up for them? They want flexibility in the office, out of the office, location agnostic, right? They want that. So let's think about like what they actually need and want. And also too, actually, they want, well, what are you doing to develop your managers? What are you doing to make sure that your managers are good, that they're taking care of their people, right? So I think it's things like that the industry, and this is all industries, by the way, it's not just sales, right? But it's all that it's taking care of the person in salesperson, in business person, in health. Like the person side has been missing a bit, and I think people are searching for that a little bit. Like I'd love to have a company where like built into the day is exercise, built into the day is meditation, built into the day is journaling and gratitude. Built into the week is a mentor call. Built into the month is a mentor call. Built into the quarter is a mandatory vacation. I think the ROI on that type of environment would be.
That sounds like the perfect office, Katie. So maybe it's something that you could develop.
I'm trying, right? Like those are the things again, when I talk about like what motivates me, it's doing those types of things, what people aren't doing, what I think needs to be done. Now it could completely bomb. It could, all right, you try something new, right? Like I'd rather try it and see that it doesn't work and then be able to figure out why. Why didn't that work? What were my assumptions? What did I believe about people that I was wrong about? and I can go do the next iteration to try to find what that would look like. So it'll be a never-ending quest, a never-ending journey, but I'm still relatively young, still got some energy to go after it, and we'll see if I can ever figure.
So here's really my last question, which is sort of what we've spoken about in the last 2 minutes, really, right? Which is, what's really the big?
I mean, far and away, the biggest impact I want to drive is helping people hit their goals. Like, it's such an amazing feeling, and go hit it, right? And I wish I could help more people do that. Literally on Monday this week, spent an hour with my entire SDR team going through a goal setting exercise, how to set goals, how to map backwards and go through it. I have an hour block today for my AE team, same drill, right? Because most people don't accomplish their goals, right? So it's like, that's what, like, if I think about like the biggest impact I could have is like helping people achieve their goals, whatever that may be. That might be monetary. That might be a career switch. That might be living on a beach in Costa Rica, like whatever it is, helping people achieve those things predictably. That's where I look back and go, awesome. Okay. I helped other people. Like Zig Ziglar said this so well. He said, you can get anything you want in life as long as you help other people. If I'm helping other people achieve their goals, I'm going, right? That's going to happen as kind of like a side effect of that, right? If I help thousands of people hit their goals, well, then of course I'm going to hit my goals, right? And so that's the approach that I take to it. And, I'm trying. I do my best. I'm far from perfect, but I am definitely trying to figure that out and keep people going on it. And we'll see.
That really sounds like a great dream, Katie. I think a lot of us are really kind of rooting for that vision of what sales in the workplace should look like. I know I am. So great stuff. Thank you so much for.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I think that was a great recording, as expected from you. Slightly not expected from me, but yeah, I think that was a great conversation.
Awesome. Good.
Katie, do you think I think on the calendar, we should maybe have about 5 minutes or so to just.
Yep, let's do that. I'm just double checking. Yep, that's fine. Let's do it.
Sure. Okay, great. Just give me 1 sec. I'm just going to pull it up.
So it's still recording right now. You still want it recording? Oh, still.
Yeah. So whenever you hang up on the screen, just give it a couple of minutes before you actually close the browser, because sometimes it takes a while to upload files, and then I sit here having a mini heart attack.
Cool.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen with you. Yeah. Let me know when you can see my screen, please. Can you see my screen now? Yeah? Great. Okay, so this is sort of the overall article that I had written basis the masterclass that you did with us on call coaching. We've covered some of the basics, of course, on what it is, on why it's important, on what it looks like, also on what it doesn't look like. We're also going into your framework and your tips, where you talked about observe, describe, impact, prescribe, absorb, apply, all of those things. And yeah, a little bit around what you spoke about, leveraging sales tools.
Yeah. I mean, if you could send it to me just so I can take a quick look at it. I mean, overall, I think it looks fine. I think one thing I'd like to add, the framework, right, is like the initial framework, learned from Keenan and Steve, Richard, and then have built upon it. So I just want to make sure credits given where credits due, but then I'll take a look at it and see. I think my other ask, right, and maybe it's in here, maybe it's not, is I don't want a specific endorsement to wingman, right? So KD says to use wingman or anything like that. So I haven't used it. Okay.
We don't have that at all. I think the only place where I have included
Yep.
wingman is win within the moment
Nope.
coaching.
That's
I've got that you can
fine.
set it
It's
on
just
tools
like I
like
don't want a
wingman.
big
If you want,
bold
I'm
quote
happy to
somewhere
include
that
other
says
tools as well here.
KD says to use wingman for like that's all. So okay, no, that looks fine.
No. Oh.
Well, it has happened.
No, we never do
It's
that.
happened before,
I
which
never
is
do that
why I
too, don't
have
worry. It's
to
tools
ask
like
about it.
wingman.
Okay, that's fine.
Flag it. Fair enough. No, that's not
Yep.
happening at all. No.
I mean,
Is there anything else that you think you
it's
want to
fine. I
add?
think it's close enough. That
I
was
know
the
you
big
haven't
thing.
seen
I just
all of
wanted to
it.
make sure if we're putting in like the screenshot or the framework that, you know, credit is given there and then that there isn't like a specific wingman endorsement. Other than that, should be fine.
That's yours. Yeah. Okay. Even for the
Okay.
image of these points, right?
All right, that's fine.
This will just really be your framework on the image as well.
Okay. Cool.
It's not a wingman property at all. So yeah, we aren't putting wingman there, of course. That'll be your image completely. And then yeah, we can add the credits that you want here as well. I think that makes sense. So do you want to maybe
just share it with me and I
take
can
another
throw
look
it in
at
there
this and then
we should be
add
good to go.
these bits, or do you want me to do it now? Okay, great. That sounds super good. I think that was
Yeah, I mean, shoot that over
could I just
today.
maybe-
I should be able to knock that out by end of day. It's literally 30 seconds. It'll be fine.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be great because I'm actually
Okay.
doing follow up with the webinar guys from the masterclass, so I can send it out tomorrow to them then. That would be great then. I'll send it to you right away. Also, Kevin, base KD, I'm not sure which you're good with. Okay. Just one other thing is on the basis of today's podcast, do you mind me writing up another article if you want in your name that maybe talks about some of these things that you.
I mean, we can discuss it because technically the partnership is ended, right? So Wingman didn't renew as a sponsor. So I want to be cognizant of using my name and likeness for content and things of that nature if there's not still an ongoing relationship. So like, you know, I've agreed to do a lot of this stuff in addition to what was already done, right? And so I'd be hesitant to unless we kind of come back to a partnership relationship. That's just kind of my initial feedback there.
No problem. That's no problem there. I will anyway write up an article then based on my conversation with you. But I think as best practice, I'd like to run that past you as well before I post it. It's going to be in my name or in Shruti's name, most likely, about what we really learned from you. And all your knowledge is obviously attributed to you. Okay. That's for sure. And I'll have a link to the podcast.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it'll just be an overview. And yeah, absolutely. Credit due where
yes, indeed.
Always
yes, but people don't always follow it, as you also know. So I appreciate it. Yeah, we're good to go.
Yes. Great. No, we really enjoyed our partnership with you and Anish. And yeah, I think you're great partners to work with for sure. I'm sure we'll do something again super soon.
Good. I get it.
We just need to amp up our arms.
Best of luck to all y'all. Like I said, I believe in what y'all are. Basically like a consulting call with Shruti as well of like where I would focus and how to do things. So hopefully y'all got some value and, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks so much, Katie. I think we're good. Bye-bye.